Greetings, this is Father Michael with our word of the week. This week's word is faith. We enter into the next 3 weeks of Holy Week, beginning with Passion Tide and this Sunday, Palm Sunday. Next week, Easter Sunday, and the joy of the Lord and the great hope we have in his resurrection in our lives. And then finally, we have Divine Mercy Sunday, the greatest expression of God's loving embrace. And so the next 3 weeks, an examination of faith, hope, and love, not simply abstract ideas or even considered simply from their theological formulation, but faith, hope, and love in terms of what Jesus did for us, his activity on earth, and what he continues to do with and through us in his church. So this week, the most famous of all weeks, Holy Week, faith. Now we know faith is belief in God, a kind of trusting or an impetus that leans us in to that relationship with God precisely when we don't see it, precisely when it is not crystal clear to us. You think of the events of Holy Week, especially from Jesus' perspective, and no doubt there was the physical torments. There was the scourging, the crowning, the carrying of the heavy cross, ultimately the crucifixion that Jesus will undergo this week. But perhaps the most difficult part for Christ was the fact that more or less, with just few exceptions, Jesus was alone. His followers either denied him, betrayed him, with the exception of one, simply scattered. All those who had followed him, all those who had been present at the great raising of Lazarus, the crowds who had been fed by the 5,000 and the baskets of bread and fish left over, all of those had dispersed. And literally, a few traveling holy women, his mother and St. John, the only ones who followed at a distance. Jesus on the cross indeed says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Here is the great test of faith. In our own lives, we all have our own sufferings, our struggles, the difficulties we encounter, but it's precisely in those moments when we can feel alone, isolated, cut off from even God's blessing. And so, what do? We have 2 ways to go. We can either despair or be paralyzed in those sufferings, or we can ask God to increase our faith, to strengthen our trust, and to know that because, and precisely because Jesus endured the aloneness or the abandonment that is part and parcel of suffering, we too know that Christ is always with us, that Christ never abandons us, and there's no place, no struggle, no difficulty that we are presently in that is worse than what Christ himself already endured for us. This week, as we enter into the great mysteries of Holy Week, let us take any aspect of our life, any relationship, any personal struggle or illness or sense of loss that keeps us from trusting the Lord, and let us turn it over to the Lord. Let us abandon our mind and our heart to trust in him, to believe, to say, with ultimately the experience of the risen church of Thomas, Lord, you are my Lord. You are my God. Increase my faith. Amen. Amen. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. Please like, subscribe, comment, interact with us together here at St. Dominic's. We want to continue to radiate the joy of the gospel in the heart of the city. Shine with the Lord's love. Amen. Amen.